get a motion to call the meeting in order, and we got a roll call, the call to order in, so.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Paul, second by Andy, and if I get a roll call, Paul,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
and David, yes. All right,
And Gardul said he'd be 15 minutes late.
right. So let's start off on the agenda. We have FY24 budget discussion as item 2. Carolyn sent around a list of deadlines. One of the things on that discussion is meeting with department heads. And one of the things I wanted to just throw by the rest of the board and see your feelings on it. I don't, as much as I like them, I don't think we really need to meet with all the department heads outside of some increase, kind of over the rate of inflation, something like that, something that's out of the ordinary, a massive increase, a massive change, because in the past we've sat for hours while they read through their budget that they have emailed us, weeks in advance, which we can kind of read over ourselves. So thoughts on that?
I would support that. It would save them time, working at a normal hours, and a lot of times it is. I mean, it's no slight, but there are some departments where pretty much it's regular business as usual, small increases, and we're advisory only, and really it's the larger increases that we need to look at and make a decision whether we think they're prudent or not.
And that's not to say that if we see something we don't like or have questions about, we can't ask to meet with them when the time comes. I just don't want to have a meeting just to have a meeting,
I would agree with that on some, so such as, let's use the collector. It hasn't changed a whole lot. The clerk hasn't changed a whole lot. One year's an election year, another year's not. Things like that. But things like the police, they always have a huge presentation. I would think we would need to meet with them because they always have a whole bunch of stuff, and it's kind of good. So certain ones, I would think we would need to just hear some of the big ones.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And especially, the police, not uncommon for them to have big increases or changes in their budget, like when we were moving the patrol cars into, or out of their budget, things like that. So big changes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Do we somehow want to identify a trigger, or are we going to look at it in advance and decide which ones we want to meet with?
let's see. We'll look at that schedule that Carolyn sent out, and we'll see when the department heads. Hang on 1 second. All right, looks like recommended February 12th through the 29th is listed for meeting with department heads. Going forward, I was just planning on every Thursday at 6 p.m. on Zoom to post for a meeting. If we don't need one or we can't manage to pull it together, we can certainly cancel it, but it's easier just to post and have it ready. So it looks like we'll have a meeting next week at least where we can decide on a triggering amount or factor of who to meet with, so we don't have to do that tonight. And unfortunately, I think Thursday was the only night that worked for just about everybody on the board. So,
All right. Carolyn, do you have any thoughts on this proposal, or is that okay?
Yeah, I agree. That was something I had suggested, that having it every week it's helpful for the finance team and myself as well, for us to know exactly what day you're going to be meeting.
No, I mean the proposal about not taking up the time of a department that say.
Oh, absolutely.
As a,
absolutely.
just a cost of living increases across the board or minor change.
Absolutely.
So I think we could do it two ways. This is the first year we're doing it. We could just say, have them submit a week, give us time to just have a quick look at it. But do we need to, if we're looking at it, if it's sent to us and we're looking at it independently, then is that an open meeting issue? Or are we able to just do a quick review on our own and then just, say?
Absolutely. I would expect that you would want to.
So we could look at them all just in print and say, yes, this one is okay. It's only, it's under the 3%. I mean, we may decide there may be questions on something that is low. So I don't know that we want to restrict it if there are things that they need to convey to us, future, major expenditures. If they feel they want to tell us that, oh, well, this is what it is now, but next year we've got whatever coming up. So just be prepared. Just to do it more on so that we're looking at them all this year to see if then we say, yes, okay, we were able to, have 5 committees not come in front of us, but at least we looked at them all. So people don't think we're not looking at them at all. Okay.
Mhm.
I think, that way we're still doing a level of oversight, which is what the public wants us to do. David, would you concur with that? Is that okay? Or
Yeah, no, that
take a vote on that? Okay.
I don't even think we need to vote on it at this point. We can, we can just, as long
Okay.
as there's no disagreement on that, we can just go forward with that.
All right. Anybody else got an opinion? Not to take your job over. I'm
No.
sure.
Well, like we were talking about, what is the trigger, right? So, and so we can, I guess, work that out independently. Also, I don't want to deprive any department heads that should they want to come in and present, and not meet the trigger.
Right. Yeah, so that's why I think if they submit to us, so if we have if they submit their budgets to us well enough in advance for us to schedule them, and we look at them and we say, listen, this one is fine. There's no really big changes there. We already know about we're buying whatever. There was something that was, we already approved. Then we can say, you can skip, we can pass on that meeting and then unless the department comes back and says, we really want to go in front of you because we want to talk about something. And then we'd have to schedule them. But that way we look at all the budgets. At least we have looked at them. We're not trying to get out of, oversight.
I would definitely say though, because of all the changes in police, we meet with them, we meet
Oh,
with
yeah.
fire because
No,
of
no,
all
no.
the change with fire,
Absolutely.
we meet with school and DPW.
Right.
Those are the ones that I would say. And two, even though Hadley Media doesn't have a lot, that one is something still to keep on the burner because of what we're, any ideas for the future. I'm just saying, and anything that we need, that is something we have to keep in
Yeah.
thought.
Right. But if we see all the budgets in advance,
Yeah,
where they are in a draft form, and we look at them, and if they're not changing, there's nothing comes in afterwards, we can make a decision to call out a bunch that are, not really, there's no significant increase at all. It's just part of, things cost a little more and cost of living increases, et cetera, et cetera.
I agree with that. So such as like the planning board never doesn't
there's
change
lots
very
of-
often.
Right, cemetery, there's a bunch of them. I mean, sometimes maybe there's a major expense in cemetery, so one year it doesn't meet with us, but another year it has something. But we look at them all in advance, and then we call out the ones that are just basic, business as usual with minor increases as, necessary by inflation. That's all.
Agreed.
Okay. And we don't need a proposal on this, David? You don't think,
No, I don't think so.
just an operating policy? Okay.
Yeah, this is how we're gonna move forward unless somebody wants otherwise. So, and like you said, or somebody said, if somebody really wants to come say hi to us and they're, like you said, the cemetery committee or whatever, and they just want to say hi, then that's fine. That's what we're here for. Otherwise, we're not gonna demand their time.
Right.
All right.
All right. That's good.
Carolyn, anything else on FY24 budget that you want to hit? I think she's shaking her head. But
I don't. I think we'll have everything that you'll need starting on your next meeting.
okay, and we'll plan on posting for next Thursday. So,
You're posting for next Thursday? I won't have everything for next Thursday.
Oh, you won't. Okay.
That's the first. We were planning on that next week.
Do you have anything for us to review next Thursday?
We would have so normally I'd be presenting you with the TA's recommendations, but we will just be starting to meet with the bigger department heads next week, Linda and I.
So it looks like on the schedule you have presenting the budget to the select board on Wednesday, the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So could we hold a meeting on the 8th just to kind of see if we have any questions for at that point.
Yeah, you can ask questions on the 7th as well, because
Yeah.
it'll be a by board.
Oh, that's right. So do you guys want to just do the tri-board? I don't want to take up all the select board's time. I know they have other things to do, but do you guys just want to plan on being at the tri-board for Wednesday and then not hold a meeting Thursday, or would you like to hold a meeting Thursday?
I think we should probably post it just in case there's an opportunity for us to, sometimes these select board meetings might not have all the time available to get to the budget. Or it might be condensed at the very end of the meeting. I don't know. I just think it might be prudent to at least put it on the schedule. And as you said earlier, if we were able to answer all of our questions for the week, call it good for the 7th and cancel the 8th, but at least have that available.
Yeah, could we use the 8th since we'll have will we have the individual budgets at that point in proposal?
We're gonna have to be real aggressive, but
Because
that is what we have on the schedule. That's what we're working towards.
Okay. Because we could use the 8th as it could be a short meeting where we just go through the ones that we can immediately look at quickly and call them out so the department heads in those groups know they don't have to meet. Then we know we only have so many meetings to do, and then we can formalize the schedule for when those folks will be coming in.
Sure. And that was Linda's, as we had talked about how we were going to meet with the department heads, we were going to do what we were calling the big hitters. It's very similar to what you're discussing. So we'll at least have those, but the intent is to have a preliminary budget. We'll have to see how it goes with the schedules next week and the weather.
All right. And I think the only proviso would be if that during this couple of weeks that we're in, if a department that we said we didn't have to meet with suddenly at the last minute finds a major expense pops up, then we'll schedule something with them.
Sure.
But we could use the 8th to do the kind of calling out of ones that we don't have to take their time up.
Okay.
That make sense?
Yep.
Excellent.
All right. Anything else on FY24 budget before we move on? All right. So next we have item 3, open meeting law complaint 10/18/23 S. Del Molino regarding 10/2/2023 and 10/11/2023 Finance Committee meeting. Carolyn, do you want to read that out? Or I sent it around to everybody on the Finance Committee, but just read it out so that way it's on the video.
Sure. The Hadley Finance Committee, David Phil, Chair, met on August 2nd and August 11th, 2023. For both meetings, the agenda was as follows. Agenda 1, minutes 2, special town meeting warrant. At the end of October 2nd, 2023 meeting, 3 members of the 5-member committee were present, and they recommended that a warrant article for the Department of Public Works project be reduced from $3 million to $225,000. The agenda lacked enough specificity for the public to know what was to be discussed. The chair, David Phil, was made aware of the potential violation and referred me to, quote, the town administrator and the state ethics committee to sort that out, unquote. The October 2 meeting can be found, and it gives the YouTube, how to get on YouTube to get that. I cannot locate the recording of the October 11th, 2023 meeting on the website. As a former select board chair, David Phil previously violated open meeting law for lack of specificity in the agenda. See September 14th, 2021 open meeting law determination.
Okay, so we have to discuss it and pick somebody to work with Carolyn to write a response to the state, what our response will be, and go from there. So let me start.
David, if I can also read what on the Attorney General, when you're filling out an open meeting law complaint, you can also offer what action do you want the public body to take in response to your complaint. So number 1, the FinCom should reconvene and properly notice the meeting, acknowledge the mistake, rediscuss and vote. The select board should send the town administrator to open meeting law training so she can adequately supervise boards, committees, and volunteers with respect to the open meeting law. And the AGO can determine what action should be taken with regard to David Phil.
Clarify that was suggestions made by the complainant. not the AGO's.
Yes, that is from the complainant, correct.
Yep. So let me start by saying that the agenda item for the warrant discussion, that's something that has been on every agenda since the beginning of time, as far as I know. And it's been acceptable going forward, short of posting the entire warrant, which is posted publicly and at town hall and everywhere else, as an attachment to the agenda. We typically just put annual town meeting or special town meeting warrant discussion. And that discussion, I don't remember what the warrant article number was, but we were talking about the dollar amount for the DPW rebuild, for lack of another term. And if I recall, it was, I said, well, what about if we lowered it to the 225, which had come up during another discussion, I believe with Carolyn or Scott or somebody, and then we could get some schematic drawings done versus spending the $2 million. And there was a motion made and a second to make the recommendation to the select board. It's not our warrant, it's the select board's warrant. Then that discussion, as far as I'm concerned, was a part of the town meeting warrant discussion. We had no way of knowing that would come up until I brought it up. So it would be impossible to post every single possible direction that a conversation could go during during one of these meetings. So that's just what I wanted to chime in on that.
Yeah, and that recommendation was actually made by the outside firm. Carolyn, help me with the name of the gentleman there who made that recommendation when we were talking, or he came up with the number when the prospect of reducing it from the overall design of the DPW to get a more hardened number to present to town meeting, rather than the high estimate that was just floating around. And the $3 million was a number kind of grabbed out of the air based on previous projects. And the $225,000 was the number provided by that consultant to say, this is what you should get to get the design that should give us a more accurate accounting of what the project cost.
Which is exactly what your charge is to do when you're going over the warrant in the budget. That's the charge of the finance committee.
Paul, Amy, anything to add into that?
Well, we're advisory, so it doesn't, anything we do doesn't actually have any real teeth in terms of expenditure one way or the other. I mean, we're a citizen advisory group to tell the, representing the people who, vote in this town, and our job, we're appointed, and our job is to look over these things on behalf of, the taxpayers. But what we say it's not binding on anybody. It's not binding on a town meeting. It's not binding on the select board. We can recommend one thing or another, and it may have some bearing on how people decide to vote, or they may ask us, why did we do this? But they vote the way they want to vote. The recent vote against the fire truck is an example. Okay, we supported it. They didn't. Voters had their way. And that's the way the system works here. And I believe, at least in meetings I've been in, I was not in that particular meeting. I was in the second one, so I'm not sure how that was a violation, what the violation alleged there is. But in that meeting, in the past, when I've been in these meetings, and I don't know, I haven't looked up the YouTube, typically when we start talking about the warrant, we have it projected onto the screen, do we not? And go through each section that we're going to discuss. So, if it says there's a discussion of the warrant, even though the warrant may not have been available, it's usually sometimes not available to us until we get to the meeting. And I don't know whether we had it, just a few hours before or not, but then we do a screen share, usually done by Linda. Was she at that meeting? Linda will do a screen share and then we'll discuss it. So I guess I feel like we need some guidance here on where a violation actually occurred. That's, I don't quite understand it.
Yeah, Carolyn, correct me if I'm wrong, but at that point, the warrant had already been posted on the town website, posted at town hall, and I believe it's at the post office and a couple other places.
Yeah, it's not about, it's the specificity of the agenda posting and going into what was perceived of a detail that wasn't made known to the public. But that is exactly what happens when the finance committee goes over the warrant that includes financial matters. You are to address each article if you become aware of of something that is that you can have input on financially, which was the schematic design, because you had all, I think it was evident that you all had expressed concerns over the success of, if you have been going for that $3 million, that this would keep the project going. So it's exactly what you are charged to do when you go through the warrant and you go through the ones and you're looking at the financial articles that impact the town. That's why you are appointed to advocate on behalf of the community. So I think that the question is that it probably that, and I don't know, but that it didn't specifically say on that article in the agenda, but that you wouldn't do that with a whole warrant because you're in charge of all the financial matters on the warrant. So to make recommendations to the select board and then to the voters.
I mean, if we posted that way, which it sounds like is what the request is, I mean, we'd never be able to finish the discussion because the second somebody said, hey, well, why don't we do this? We'd have to stop conversation, repost, hold another meeting, and nothing would ever get done.
Well,
So,
and the warrant article itself, you know, obviously we've been involved with this enough to know that when it first comes out, it is very much a draft, and it's a draft all the way up until it is finally approved by the select boards. And every week it changes, the numbers change, you know, even the number of warrant articles can change, and the content of them can change. And so if you were to link the warrant article into the posting, say we're going to discuss and then put the URL of the actual document into the agenda, that may not actually be the copy that we're looking at come meeting time, because things could have changed that afternoon. We've certainly experienced that. And you know, I hope folks understand that you know, it is a very transient process going through, and that with trying to adhere to the 48 hours notice, it's hard to freeze work on a document and then address the points that are only in that document, not the things that have come up. And there's usually that disclaimer in there, right, for anything that came up within 48 hours of the posting of the warrant. I mean, of the meeting, and that's pretty reflected in the town warrant and town budget process.
Also, the warrant can change on the floor at a town meeting.
Mhm.
You walk in and you think you're voting on something, you've handed out a warrant, what the votes are tonight, and somebody puts in an amendment in writing and suddenly it gets voted on, and suddenly you're voting on something different than was in the original warrant that you may or may not have come to the meeting for.
You're right, Paul. There's quite often we go there and we look at a printed version, and then it's not actually the version that something
Right.
changed that between the printing and the meeting.
Yeah. So I'm not sure.
We
how-
also,
Yeah.
we also all have other committees that we're on, such as CPA you're on, and then capital, and all of those things are on the warrant. And so you will go to all the other meetings during this time too, get more detailed information, and the rest of us don't know. But then you bring it back to us, but it all still pertains to that warrant. It still all pertains to either annual town meeting or special town meeting. So it's really, when we meet, it seems like unless it's once in a while, we might meet in the summer or in the winter to start other processes, but during the spring and the fall, when we meet, all we talk about is budget and warrant, budget and warrant. And so that's what we that's everything. But it's so broad. Budget and warrant are so broad. It covers a lot, and you can't get too specific with that.
And my point is that they're dynamic too. You know, they're throughout that process, they're not the same 2 days apart usually. But to your point, if we are members of other committees and we do have discussions, and then we bring it back to the finance committee, generally we can't talk about it until the open meeting. So you know, we're bringing up anything that pertains to the topic of discussion from participation in that other. And you wouldn't know what to prepare for and write down.
So we need to write a response to the Attorney General's office. I'm happy to work with Carolyn unless somebody else wants to do it. I'm more than happy to hand it off, but
I don't mind. I've never done one before, so David, have fun.
oh, so much fun. All right, then if no one else wants to do it, I just need a motion in a second to allow me to write the response with the town administrator and send it back to the state.
I'll make a motion that David is authorized to prepare a response to the Attorney General's office and work with town administrator on the same. Is that okay? Carolyn, you're muted.
You're making a response to the complainant, and then we send a copy to the Attorney
Is that
General.
how we do it? Okay, so let me amend that if I may. David will prepare a response to the complainant and send a copy to the Attorney General as required. And we'll be assisting.
Second.
Motion by Paul, second by Amy, and I will roll call it. Paul,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
and David, yes.
Okay. The second meeting, do we need a response for that? I don't understand that complaint, how that applied there. Or are we, is it the same exact thing? So just we covered it with that?
I think it was specificity in the agenda is the.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the complaint about specificity is not different from the nature of that the same answer applies. So we don't end up having this come back because we didn't properly answer the second part of it. That's all I'm suggesting is just asking that question.
So what you're saying is the complaint wasn't specific enough?
If that's what, yeah, thank you. Yes, I am, I guess. Sorry, but you could take it.
I don't know, Carolyn, is there something separate, or is it just about in general the specificity of the warrant?
Yeah, I think it's the now I'm having trouble saying it. Yes, it's so it's one complaint.
Same thing. Okay,
Yeah,
I just
same
want to make
thing.
sure we're covering this whole thing.
Of the agendas, of the meeting agendas.
Yes.
Fine, then we're good.
And if I can just clarify on the recommendation from the complainant about the town administrator going to open meeting law training. It's usually about once a month that they do an updated training that I attend, as well as every board and committee member has to go to a website and a training for open meeting law. So that is happening on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and we have to maintain currency with town fund.
Yes.
Okay.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Yep, I'm gonna see if there's anything, just any unforeseen items, and I don't think we have any at this point. So,
Okay,
Paul,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Well, next Wednesday's tri-board, just to review.
yep, and then finance on Thursday.
Carolyn, do you have an
So
idea
that's
what?
2 weeks. It's not next week,
Week after, yes.
week after.
A week after, okay, and Carolyn, do you know, or could you let us know approximately where in the agenda, the select board agenda rather, that we're gonna, you want us to attend? Sometimes there's an hour's worth of stuff beforehand, but
Yes,
We would usually, when it's a tri-board or a bi-board, and it may just be a bi-board, it is, we put you right in the beginning.
okay. Thank you.
okay, now my motion,
Please.
I'll repeat it. A motion to adjourn.
Second,
All right, motion by Paul, second by Amy, and I'll roll call it. Paul,
Yes,
Andy,
Yes,
Amy,
yes.
and David, yes.